Pregame.com.
I'm Vegas Runner here with Bryan Leonard. Going to break down Auburn at Clemson. Line open Clemson minus 4.59. Now looking at anywhere from 3 minus $1.15 minus $1.20 to 3.5. Total jumped up to 61. When this line opened back at the Golden Nugget, they had Clemson at 5.5 in July. Like you said, most sharps bet against Auburn at that point. And looks like Auburn's getting bet against pretty much here, I think, when game day gets here. I think we're going to see some money come in on the Clemson side from the sharps if this hovers at that 3.
Yeah, right now, the Auburn was a play against originally. Everybody was betting it and took a lot of money against them in every game over at the Golden Nugget. But you take a look at Clemson this year, and they really haven't looked impressive either. Now, coming into the season, they had a lot of talent, and they were expected to be very good, but they haven't shown it yet. So I don't know if they're sandbagging, which I don't really think they are.
Right.
But you got to admit, the next 2 weeks are their 2 biggest games of the season. They play Florida State next week.
Yeah, and they play Troy and Wofford. And last year, losing to Auburn was the beginning of the end for Clemson. I mean, they had the lead in that game. Everything was going great. And historically, Clemson's always started out slow. So I wasn't surprised, but that was the beginning of the end for them. And they went on to lose 5 of 7 games by a touchdown or less. So this team just couldn't get it done when it mattered. Personally, I think they were looking ahead to this game. I think this was as big as it gets for Clemson. Auburn, on the other hand, most put them back in their top 20 after last week, and we touched on Auburn last week. Right. We thought they had a lot of value. They were undervalued by the betting market. I think the opposite holds true now that they're 2-0 and they're back in the top 20 as far as AP USA Today goes. I think they're a little overvalued. I like the Clemson side, and my real pick here is the over. I think we're going to see a lot of scoring. Especially now with Clemson, if you notice, they've gone to that Auburn spread offense as well.
Right.
So they're looking to score. You know, Auburn's looking to score. It may look like the square side going over, but I think both these teams crack 30.
Yeah, there's no reason not to want to play the over, because when you've got two teams who want to hurry up, get up to the line of scrimmage and make their calls from there, you're going to get more plays in the game. So if you go back and you look at the way they played last year and the years before, you're going to have less plays. So then you just have to change it to this year. When you're going to get more plays, you get more scoring. And I'm with you. I agree. There's going to be a lot of scoring in this game. At least there should be. Clemson's looked a little vanilla offensively the first 2 weeks. They played a Troy team who had a lot of injuries coming into the season. A lot of their better players were out for the season.
Right.
A lot of people didn't talk about that. I think I went against Troy the first week again with Clemson, and I won that game. And then last week against Wofford. So maybe they have been a little vanilla, and these are their 2 biggest games coming up.
Yeah,
so
that's what I think. You know that Auburn's looking for game tape. You know Florida State's going to want game tape. Now that you've gone to that spread offense, if you don't provide them with anything, that might give you a bit of an advantage. I think if I was Clemson, that's what I'd want to do. I wouldn't want to open up my playbook against Wofford and Troy knowing that Auburn and Florida State are on deck. So personally, I may be wrong, but I think, I'm looking at it that's what they were doing. And based on that, I lean Clemson. I like Clemson at 3. I don't want to get off that, lay 3.5.
Right.
At 2.5, Clemson would have probably been my best bet. Instead, I'm saving the best bet for the NFL. But I will give out a play. I'm going to go over the 61, and I'll step up and say lay Clemson too, but only at 3.
Yeah, you're talking about the over. The last 7 regular season games for Auburn, they've averaged 75.9 points a game. And if you watched last week, they played a Mississippi State team who I don't think a lot of, and they were able to move the ball pretty much at will with them.
Yeah.
And they went down to, the 1 foot line
Exactly.
at the end of the game. So, Auburn, all their games are going down to the wire. I mean, they're setting a record here for how many games they've had in tight ball games. So it's kind of risky laying a lot of points because, Auburn's always in the game, win or lose. But so far, the coin has flipped their way, and they've been able to win these games. So if you do like Clemson in this game, make sure you're not laying any more than 3.
That's what I say. And you're right. Auburn's gotten the bounces, the luck factor's kind of gone their way, and they're 2-0. You know, both these teams are 2-0. But again, I think the Chad Morris coming over from Tulsa, we know how they scored points. I really think this is going to give a boost to Clemson, and it's something Auburn hasn't seen from Clemson. But the only thing that worries me, because the Auburn defense and the Clemson defense now prepares against their first unit, right, which is the spread offense, yep, does that give, a disadvantage to both offenses? That's what I wanted to ask you. I know how much you analyze games, right, and I want to know what you thought, if that's a disadvantage to the offenses and advantage to the defenses because they see the spread offense.
Not only do they see it, but they face it every day in practice. So their conditioning should be better in regards to that. So I have to agree on that point. But, you're going to put a lot more plays on the board. And anytime you get more plays, you get more scoring. And, I think that's the way to go. I think this game is going to go up. Yeah.
All right. So there you have it. Both me and Bryan agree. We like the over in this one. Personally, I like Clemson as well. That's going to do it for this game. We'll be back breaking down 3 cheers for Old Notre Dame.